Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everybody? Episode 222. That's sometimes when I think about that, man, it's insane. Got an on-site interview today. Kind of fun. Went to my friend Nick Brower's new store in New Hartford, New York, AAN Collect, and doing big things already. Just opened and doing some crazy stuff. And went on site, had to pick up some SGC cards that were subbed, and we did an interview while I was there as well. And Nick's a really down-to-earth great guy, and we're going to learn about opening a store post-pandemic, right? The difficulty of that, and how you survive and how you thrive. And he's thriving, and we're going to talk a little bit about his success. And it is harder to open up a hobby shop after the boom, right? I think it would have been easier to do then the way things were going, right, and the prices that things were selling for. But he has a recipe for success. It works for him. We're gonna pick his brain today. We're gonna chop up some other hobby stuff as well. All right, something different for you. Paramount Pictures representatives contacted the show and asked if I'd be interested in giving away some digital free passes for 80 for Brady, the motion picture with the Jane Fonda and friends about being big Tom Brady fans. And so I'm going to give away 5 passes, digital passes to see that film. But let me talk about that. Get early access to 80 for Brady on digital today. Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, Rita Moreno, and Sally Field stars 4 best friends who go on an unforgettable journey to see their hero Tom Brady play in Super Bowl 51 in this hilarious comedy about living life to the fullest, no matter your age. Directed by Carl Marvin. 80 for Brady is on digital now, available at participating retailers. Rated PG-13 from Paramount Pictures. If you have not seen this or you want to see this, reach out to me on any of our social media. Send me an email at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. That's sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. Or contact us on any of our social medias. And if you're lucky, I'll tell you you've got a free digital pass and send it to you so you can see the film for absolutely free. So, hey, you're in the doghouse with the significant other, want to make it a movie night, reach out to the show. Let me know you want a free digital pass, and I'll probably get you one to see 80 for Brady.
Time for our Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week.
This is Mike, this Baseball Card Life, and remember, the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
Are you a new sports cards collector or someone returning to the hobby? Maybe you're just looking for a friendly, trustworthy hobby community to hang out with and enjoy collecting. Midwest Box Breaks has been bringing collectors together for many years with affordable breaks, helpful threads, and a Discord group packed with generous people who genuinely care about the hobby and other collectors. Check out the breaks at MidwestBoxBreaks.com. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. Also, find us on Twitter at MidwestBoxBreaks.
Hey folks, John here. Just wanted to remind you, use the discount code MBB10 for 10% off your first order at MidwestBoxBreaks.com. Joining me now on the Sports Card Shop guest line, a good friend of mine. Glad to finally have him on. He just opened his own LCS. We're going to definitely talk about that amongst other things, and we set up at the Syracuse shows together. My good friend Nick Brower. Nick, welcome.
Thanks for having me, John.
All right, so let's start. I know you, like me, you've been in the hobby a while. Kind of talk about like your start. When did it all start for you?
For me, for personal collection, started in 1986 with the Mets. I was a Mets fan, and I switched over to Yankees.
Oh man, I used to like you.
That was my grandmother. But I started collecting then and got into actually selling and breaking big time in like 2010. We started with Blog TV. I did breaks, and we've just grown from there.
Yep, and you do a good job. Like I said, I've gotten to know you here, especially recently, and doing the SGC bulk subs, and you're involved with me in that, and again at the show, and I got to run to the bathroom, and I know you help me watch my stuff, but I'm here at the store now. We're doing this on site at your store, and just amazing how fast you've got this up and going, and the inventory you have is tremendous. Something for everyone. If you come in here and don't find something, you're probably not looking hard enough. Talk about the evolution to, you were already doing business, but eventually making the LCS leap. When did you start thinking about it and sort of that process?
Last year, when Fanatics bought Topps, writing's on the wall. I think in the long run, you're going to have a store to get product if you want it direct. So I started looking for a store middle of the year last year, and then things came to fruition when GTS announced their announcement right after the National. I went into hyper mode and got signed up with Fanatics and opened the store, basically more for sports cards. But you saw my eBay room. I need room to grow there. So, and then the toys and stuff were just a natural fit because I already sold them from my eBay and online businesses.
Yeah, and you got a great selection. I know, talking to you, obviously off the air, Pokemon, I don't know anything about it, but that's your area of expertise too. And you said that's been a big seller. Why? I mean, it's not new. Obviously, it's always been a pretty, popular thing. Why do you feel that is?
It's a game. And it's like cartoonish. It brought kids. A lot of my customers the adult customers are from the original Pokemon in 95 through 99 that were Wizards of the Coast. And they're getting their kids into it now. It's kind of like sports cards, almost like if they're into just Pokemon, they're just teaching their kid Pokemon. If they're into sports cards, they're getting their kid into Pokemon, hoping they make the adjustment to sports cards. That's been the most of what I've talked to with the customers in there. But seeing the kids' faces when they walk in here, they're used to going to the Targets and Walmarts now where there's nothing on the shelf. And now they got a whole wall full of Pokemon they could choose from. So it's been pretty awesome. That's the best part about it.
Yeah, and I can tell you from doing the bulk subbing, it is obviously very strong. What, in getting the store off to, you call it a soft launch right now, leading up to your official grand opening. How has that been? Has it been as difficult as you kind of anticipate? Not as, kind of speak to, that process of getting where you are right now.
The most difficult part right now is delays in product for the toy lines. But as far as sports cards and Pokemon, the word of mouth has been fantastic around here. I did some Facebook ads. People found me from them. I'm still waiting for a sign to even put up on the building with delays with everything going on. So yeah, it's been great. Like the community has rallied around me. The town supervisor is actually my landlord, so that helps with getting the word out. But yeah, it's been fantastic. The kids are telling other kids at school. Adults are telling other adults that are looking for product for their kids. So I 100% think my community around me, they have been tight, and they have blown this way past what I thought I'd be at right now with the customer base.
Yeah, I know. Well, again, in talking to you before we went live here, you even think about expanding already. That it's been so good. Talk about getting product. Is it you're not new to the hobby? Is it gotten more difficult, more easy? About the same. Talk about especially now running an LCS. Talk about sort of the logistics of that.
It depends on the product, honestly. Getting sports cards is still difficult because of allocations. Being with Topps makes it a little bit easier because you definitely get more from them than you would from a shop just starting out.
Yeah.
But allocations still pull into everything with Pokemon, with Magic, getting signed up for Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! You have to go through a couple more hoops. Like you have to take pictures of your store, show them that you're actually brick and mortar. But it's once you get to that point, it's earning allocations even with them. So along the line, it's just building that relationship with the distributor and with those companies. The hardest part, I think we were talking before, is the delays, especially in the toy line. I think there's a lot of the stuff comes from China. So I think there's still delays going on in that country. So that's been the biggest challenge, is building, as you see, my wall where my toys go is kind of the only empty wall. So
Yeah. Well, Rome wasn't built in a day, and that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more with my friend Nick.
Introducing the only auction house dedicated exclusively to the cards of the 1990s. Josh Adams and John Linden have created an auction company solely for the rare, scarce, and hard-to-find inserts and parallels of the 1990s. Whether it be basketball, baseball, football, or hockey, 90s auctions will have it. Each auction will consist of smaller lots between 100 and 120 lots, so your cards won't get lost in the shuffle. Founded on the principles of fairness, honesty, and integrity, 90s auction was created by collectors for collectors. Register and consign today at 90sauctions.com. That's 90s auctions.com.
Thanks for hanging out. We're back with more with Nick Brower from AAN Collect.
That kind of leads me into my next question, Nick. I know this is considered a soft opening as you lead into the grand. What for those that maybe don't know, what's the difference? What's a soft opening to a grand opening? What will be the difference between where you're at and then the grand opening?
Right now we're about 30% done. I hope by grand opening we're closer to 100. Fingers crossed. But we're going to be doing events in the store. The week after grand opening, we'll be doing Pokemon trade night on Friday night. Then we'll be doing sports card trade nights, and just different events that are going to be bigger and draw more people to the store, but we want to be ready for those crowds. We're actually working with other businesses in the plaza to combine our efforts, with food and whatnot. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be great. I talked to you, as you know, I had a store in the 90s. It's a different hobby then, but I was doing shows and had the store. It was always tricky, right? You try to separate, your show inventory, your store inventory, but obviously you have something in your store that you definitely want to bring to the show. How do you do that, or how do you plan to manage doing shows and the store, the inventory and the process between the two?
Well, obviously, number one is making sure the product's available in the store. Not leaving my shelves bare to go to the show. I will order product like Pokemon. I saw a ton at the Syracuse show.
Yeah.
So I'll if there's any Pokemon available that's decent, I'll order that for the show. Maybe take a couple boxes that aren't selling that great here. And singles, it depends on the show. As you know, the last show, you thought I was crazy not bringing any singles. And, I took that gamble, but.
Well, I think you're crazy anyway. But.
Well, yeah. But yeah, it just depends on the show and what I think would sell. I try to listen to what the people at the show are telling us. And me and you always talk after. And it seems like we hear from other people that they're not having a great show. And me and you have good shows. So it's like.
Well, we joked. It's funny you mentioned the last show. And like you said, we both did pretty well. And we heard some other people saying not so much. And we were kind of joking, so much for the hobby's dead. Again, it depends on your inventory, your pricing. There's a lot of variables to go into whether you're going to have a successful show or not. I mean, the traffic, I think you'll agree with this, the traffic at least our local shows here in the Syracuse area at the fairgrounds, the traffic's been pretty good. I mean, would you agree with that assessment?
Absolutely. We were hearing things before the last show, and I think we talked a little bit before we started that we were nervous. We've heard these bigger shows, low attendance, and then we had over 1,000 paid entrants, which for Syracuse is great. And those other shows, probably not great. But I think the big thing is learning is the big regional shows. You're going to get it narrowed down soon. It's going to be like Dallas, the show in Canada, and then the national. Those are going to be the big drawers, and then you're going to have bad shows in between. Chantilly would be another good one. I think the smaller regional shows, I don't think you're going to see a big difference.
Yeah, no, I agree with that assessment. I always get nervous as a dealer. I'll get your take on this. You have a couple good shows in a row. You almost feel like, like you're due for sort of a clunker. I've done the Syracuse show for many years, almost since I don't think the very first one, but somewhere very early on. And I've had some great shows, some good shows. I've had a couple bad, truth be told, not lately, but I've had a couple bad shows. So whenever I have some good ones, sort of 3, 4 in a row, the little voice in my head is like, you're due for, not a great one. We know what's going on in macroeconomics in the world with prices going up and discretionary income, for the most part, for most people going down. So I always, and I thought that last show we just talked about was going to be that. And yet, it wasn't a record setter for me personally, but, it was still a very good show and we kind of joked around about it. But do you ever think like that? You always, like I do, or not necessarily?
Yeah, I'm waiting for the bad show. I haven't had a bad one since our first show back from the pandemic. So I am waiting for it, and macroeconomics and all that. But we also, as dealers, can focus. I think you'll see at the show, a lot of people have $1,000 cards in their cases. That's it. I think we need to focus on the lower end collector, because they're going to still be there. They're going to be still spending $1 to $5 on their cards, and those I think that won't change. But yeah, I think the $1,000 cards, I don't even bring them anymore.
Yeah, I bring them. I mean, I don't have, my whole case is not full of them, but I bring them just in case you hit that person that's looking for. I've sold them. I'm going to be honest with you. I've sold them before. It's not a guarantee, right? I always say the more expensive the card is, sometimes the harder it is to sell, because you got to have someone that, number one's in that space, and wants the card. They're definitely conversation pieces a lot of times and get people to your table. But I think you hit it right on the head, Nick. I think you gotta try to please as many people in the hobby as you can with selection. I don't do Pokemon, you do. So someone who's interested in Pokemon's not going to stop. I know that. It's not like, I'm surprised by that. But you do a good job of really kind of covering all those bases, which I think probably helps you too, with doing an LCS, because you think like that, right? That's your mindset. For me, I agree with you. I do the 4 sports, and I do try to have, I have a $1 box. I have a player box. I think that wheelhouse for me is that $20 to $100 card range, where it's still decent, but yet still affordable. And that's kind of, where I excel at. I do have some of those expensive cards, and when you sell them, it's obviously almost instantly a great day. But you always can't, if that's all you're relying on, I think you've really kind of painted yourself in the corner. So, diversity with your inventory, I think is important. Not everyone does it. I try to do it, at least within the 4 sports. You even go beyond that.
Time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but Sports Card Nation will be right back after that.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
Let's go! You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast.
The pandemic's not gone necessarily, but it's obviously calmed down, and you don't hear about it as much. People are still, getting COVID, but it's not thankfully, it's not at the level it once was. What have you noticed, whether it be store-wise or just selling-wise, since the pandemic has kind of calmed down? We've seen sort of the hobby reset. We've seen some prices kind of come back down, which I always say is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a great opportunity to buy cards, especially I'm a vintage guy, and a lot of that stuff has kind of come down. It's a great opportunity. Just your thoughts on sort of, that assessment.
I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, let's say 2019 to 2021, is the demographics have changed huge. You go to a show, it's not 40-year-old guys anymore. You have girls, you have little kids, you have more of that group. Even at the National, you look around and it was more kids and females than I've seen at the 5 Nationals before that. I think that's good. I think we've expanded, and that's good, and we need to make everybody feel welcome. That means the kids knowing they don't have to have $1,000 card in their collection. The females accepting them as, a part of the community and not taking, trying to take advantage or whatever of them, or disparage them, or you have to embrace everything that's changed. And there's some people that do that well, and there's some people unfortunately out there that haven't done that well. But the kids are definitely the people we have to focus on, because they're the next generation. Without them, this hobby dies in 30 years. We all do.
Yep. No, you sound like me, right? I got started, this is a broken record on this show because I always say it, 7 years old, right? And here I am, 43 years later, still doing it. And, on a different level, obviously, when you work and you have more income than you do as a 7-year-old. But I think the earlier someone starts in the hobby, the more likely they are to be long term, because you're in it at a young age, you take an interest then, and then as your intelligence grows, so does your knowledge of the hobby. I know the traditional story is, high school girls come along and then you get pulled away. But a lot of those people came back. A lot of it was because of the crescendo too. Let's, truth be told. But, kids are the future, as you say. I agree, 110% with that. With doing an LCS now, I know you're always, that is your mindset with kids. Has it changed even more so, doing a store now?
You got to engage everybody. Like, you got to engage the parents, let them know. Don't try to sell something just to sell something. Let them know what they're buying. That's the biggest thing. The kid picks out a $100 box, let the parent know what's in there and what's, if it's a good value, if it's not a good value. Be honest with your customers. I can tell you that the moms and dads that come in appreciate that, because the kids want the shiny Charizard box that's $100. But the truth is, if you don't get that one promo card that is worth the box, chances are their kid's not going to be happy at the end. So you gotta let them know the odds, let them know the product, and it's like basic selling. Just be informed and let them be informed. I think that's the biggest key, like keeping the kids in, is keeping the parents engaged too.
Yeah, no doubt. Honesty is the best policy, and I think people appreciate that, right? They say, hey, listen, this person is giving me the straight scoop. They may even not make a sale because of being honest about it in this particular case, and it can lead to a sale, even if it's not that particular day down the line. You'll at least gain their respect. And that sort of thing. I want to talk about, we talked a little bit about the last fairground show that obviously we both did. I had Lynn Lake, the promoter, on the show recently. A sign he put up on the door. I didn't see it because, as you know, we kind of come in our own dealer pre-set up entrance. The sign was basically saying, with selling person to person, person to dealer is fine, but the person is sort of frowned upon because it affects the dealers. I guess your thoughts, as I kind of said my spiel on that episode, I agree with it. Probably maybe could have been, I told Lynn, maybe worded maybe a little better, but the premise itself, I think is important, because the example he brought up is you could be working a deal with a potential customer, and then someone else comes up and gives that person an elbow. Hey, I got that card. I'll do better, right? That happens. To my knowledge, it's never happened to me where I've seen it. I don't know that. I can't say that's never ever happened to my certainty. But if I see that where I know that's happening, that's not good, right? That would bother me. you pay, we pay table space to set up, and we travel, right? We got gas money. Some of those dealers stay at a hotel if their travel is far enough. So I understand why that exists, and I know that sign went viral on hobby social media, and but there's more to the story than a social media post. Just some of your thoughts, kind of as a dealer, right, at the exact show where the sign was posted. Your take on that?
I think if a person is being egregious about it, like taking somebody from a table or budging in on a sale, yeah, that sign needs to be there for that.
Yeah.
If it's two people trading or making a deal outside where no dealer has been involved, I think they should be allowed to do that. The bigger shows have trade nights, so people are used to that, and that's where it's kind of it's win some, lose some, I guess. But I do feel, the dealers pay for their space. If somebody goes there and trying to sell out of their case the whole day, that's kind of egregious. Like, they had no intention of buying. But then again, when you think about it, that person's going to buy more inventory. And who are they going to buy it from? They're going to buy it from the dealers at the show too. So it's like it's a double-edged sword. I see both sides of it, so it's hard. But I could tell you at the show, I never saw anybody take away from a dealer. If that is happening, then it needs to be addressed. But I think it's to appease some dealers that are there that might think that's going on more than it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. It goes full circle. Full disclosure, I've never noticed it exactly happening on my table where I can say, oh, I remember this day but it does happen. Just because it hasn't happened necessarily to either one of us doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I get it. It is a delicate subject, right? Because you need the dealers right at the show. You don't have a show, but you also need the customers at the show, or you'll have very angry dealers, like, where's the foot traffic? So, it's a two-sided coin, right? And I guess and sometimes it's tough to make both sides of that coin happy. So I get where it's coming from. I know. And listen, I've bought from people. You've bought from people coming up to the table with their boxes and setting them down. My only real rule is, I have glass showcases, like, please don't set your case on the glass. But you still see it from time to time. I know every once in a while I have to just remind someone in a nice way, like, because if the glass breaks, they're probably not going to, reimburse you for that. And, we might have insurance, but there's also a thing called a deductible, which probably will be more than what it would cost to fix it anyway. So it's going to be an out-of-pocket expense. But, I agree. You gotta do what's best for everyone involved. And, how much of it's going on is debatable.
Someone's at my door. I've got to get that. Be right back.
Hi, this is Pat Hughes, Cubs announcer, coming to you from the Sports Card Shop in beautiful New Buffalo, Michigan. The Gocher family has built an incredible place here for collectors to buy, sell, and trade cards and memorabilia. Be sure to stop by and let them show you around. TheSportsCardShop.com, connecting sports, athletes, the hobby, and collectors around the world.
Sports Card Nation has returned.
The fairground show that we're talking about is a one-day show. I think tell me if you agree with this, Nick. I think trade nights have sort of blurred those lines where, I remember doing shows in the late 80s, early 90s, and there was really a line between dealers and you're not a dealer. And now that line really doesn't exist no more. If you have a Zion case or any case with cards in it, everyone's sort of a dealer. You can come to the show. Some of these, let's be real, some of these people with those cases are probably making more money than we did. And they might only have to be there 2-3 hours to do it, whether they're paying sales tax or not. We can debate that. I have a kind of a strong opinion whether they are or whether they are, but I don't know everybody. So I don't want to paint with that broad brush. But I think trade nights have sort of even more. So I think the lines are already blurred. And I think trade nights was sort of that final nail in the coffin that, tax number, no tax number, everyone can sell. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's one of the questions I get when people are asking about our trade nights that are coming up. Are they going to be allowed to sell? And yeah, the answer is yes. It's a trade night. Sometimes it involves cash and cards. I get that. But in the most part, that money is going to filter through the store or through the hobby some way. So I do believe, it has made everybody a seller. And I think from 2019, it's just blown up. Like trade nights in 2021 have blown up to epic proportions. Like they've always had them, but now shows are doing them. The multi-day shows, they're renting ballrooms to do this, an extra room. So it's a big thing for the hobby. So it's something that we should look at and embrace, but also be, like at the show, if it's bothering other dealers, we have to be wary of that too. Like if it's affecting a deal, we have to look at that.
Yeah, I think it's etiquette. I think you got to have transactions. Like if you say, "Hey, I'm against transactions. There's too many," you're sort of cutting your own toe off your foot, right? Transactions get money going in the hobby in all sorts of different directions. I think it's just etiquette too. I think some people have it, right? I like to put myself and yourself in that category. Some maybe not so much. I think that's more of the problem than the trade nights or shows. It's the etiquette of just being polite, of being sensitive to people who did pay, the setup at the show and that sort of thing. And it's hard to teach. Sometimes sometimes it's the way you're raised, or you either have it or you don't. But when you deal with money, sometimes people lose sight of etiquette. So I think that it comes down to that. Anything you want to add there?
Well, yeah, and there's always going to be people on the strong side of each argument. Like there's people that look at it in the middle and kind of can see both sides. But if you're on one side or the other, you're going to see it your way. And that, we've seen it on Twitter with that conversation, and it just kind of, things were getting rude and they were insulting the area, blah, blah, blah. But that you just got to look at the whole picture. And I'm somewhat in the middle. Like I get both sides of it. And where Lynn is at, he also has to provide tax information to New York State. He has to put that sign up for to protect his own. Yeah.
There's legalities. We forget there's, and New York State, for those that don't know, me and Nick know because we live here, it's the number 2 most taxed state in the United States. And in some years, we take that top spot. And it's not the kind of top spot you're glad when you're sitting in it, right? So
are we getting taxed for this?
So New York State likes the money, and going back, I know a little bit of the old man on the porch when I was doing shows in the late 80s and 90s, right? I got my tax number. I was 15 years old, 1987, right? And I'd get people asking me then and years after, "Hey, how do I set up, how do I get a tax number? Who do I talk to? How do you do that? What's the process?" And it's funny. I've been doing shows, almost 30 plus years now. And I can't tell you the last time anyone asked me how to get a tax number. And I think, I'm going to be honest, I'm an honest guy. I think the reason being is either people are operating, let's say, without them. Sometimes you can set up at a show. I'm not talking about necessarily the ones we do, but in certain areas you could set up without one. And the other thing is, hey, you can just walk around and sell and not be on the book, so to speak. And, again, I as getting that question a lot. I don't get that question at all anymore. Now, some people do their own research. I'm not trying to say everyone's not getting a tax number. It's not, it's not that difficult as long as you know what to do. But I used to get that question way, way more than I do now. I mean, what do you think pertaining to that?
The internet, it makes things a lot easier. It's easier to Google it now. You can sign up for it in New York anyways, right through the website, and you have your tax ID in 2 weeks. Sometimes you have it that day if you pay
they'll
a fee.
give you a temporary one.
So, but I think that has a lot more to do with it, that people could just Google it now and it's easier. Back 30 years ago, we didn't have that option. We had to go to the county building and fill out the forms.
I had to look when I had to even pick out my do business as name. It was this big book. It was comical. Like it took both hands to open the thing up, turn the pages, and look to make sure no one was using the same business name. So times have definitely changed. I think it's made it easier. I mean, we joke, but I think it's made it easier. So
Time for a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Okay, everybody, have you heard about Collectible? It's the one-stop shop where any collector can buy and trade affordable shares on some of the world's most rare and valuable sports cards and memorabilia, starting from just $5. From Mickey Mantle 1952, PSA 10s, Will Chamberlain's iconic rookie uniform, to 101 Patrick Mahomes RPAs, rare LeBron James logo mans, and everything in between. Collectible creates never-seen-before access and opportunities for all. Let's enjoy the hobby we love together. Please note this is not a recommendation or solicitation to buy any security. All investment decisions should be undertaken after doing your own research.
Thanks for sticking with us. Let's return to the show.
All right, let's get a little more upbeat with the next subject. We're only 5-6 months away here from the National. I know we talked. You mentioned the National this year at Chicago, last year Atlantic City. Here I don't know if you've heard the rumor. It might have been the last time. It's probably going to be in Atlantic City. For us, it was nice, as we both know, because we got to drive there and bring more stuff. When you're driving somewhere than if you're on a plane. But we got the one coming up here in Chicago. You think Chicago's always everyone's when people are ranking their favorite venues for the National, Chicago's number one usually on that list. Your thoughts? You've been there, obviously, to Chicago. Your kind of thoughts on that as a city for the National and what you're looking forward to this year. Now attending the National as a store owner.
This year, it's actually playing into whether I'm going to go or not, just because of the location. Ohio is drivable and Atlantic City is drivable. Chicago is like a 9-hour drive, I want to say, from us. But it's me ranking. I go based on what's in the show. I feel Atlantic City, we had the most space.
Yeah.
Chicago, it seems like it's a little tight, and I haven't ever been to one in Ohio. But yeah, ranking them, Atlantic City is a horrible city. We're not going to argue that, but in the show itself, like the show setup, I feel there was more room to look at cards. Like you weren't feeling like you were compacted and there was somebody breathing on you. The last Chicago show, I can't say the same. It felt like somebody was over your back the whole time.
Yep.
And I was constantly checking my book bag to make sure it wasn't open and, the basic things you do. I like Chicago. The Chicago is a much better city, but for the show itself, if we're ranking the show, it's probably the second one only because I haven't been to any other one. It was, I think Baltimore was the other one I went to, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah, and that goes to mind. I agree with you. I think Atlantic City, again, the city, the area around the convention center itself, not going to be on any travel brochures. But I thought the venue was great itself. Like you said, it was more airy. There was more open space. I felt the exact same thing. I felt like they could even have put more tables in there if they really wanted to, potentially. Chicago, people like the area better. Obviously you got some sports teams, so you can do stuff after the show. We all know Chicago pizza and food. If you're a foodie, that's a big area as well. So the National for me is going to be a show I try to go every year. I've now got a streak going, but you mentioned with the store, you're not sure about it. How about ever? I've never set up at the National. I've only gone just as in support of the show to buy cards. Have you ever thought about now, even more, maybe more so now, as a store, maybe setting up at a National as a dealer?
Yeah, we actually tried for Atlantic City. They were sold out, and we got added to the list. And it didn't get to our spot in it. Chicago, same thing. They did the lottery. We didn't get chosen. So that's another factor that goes into whether or not we're going. We'll do the same thing for Cleveland. I think is the next show. We'll sign up, and if we get chosen, great, we'll be there. either as a dealer or as, an attendee for Cleveland. But Chicago, just the flights, and I like to bring a lot of stuff with me to trade. And so all that plays in a factor. So if we're flying out, I don't know if we're going to do it. It's kind of like a hassle.
I get it. I mean, and now you have the store to attend to, and it makes sense. And if you do leave, you're right. You have a choice. I got to either close the store and put a sign on the door, hey, National Week, see this day, or have someone you can trust, right, to run that store. And so there's a lot of factors that go into that. That being said, though, it's the National has seemed to settle into this kind of 3-4 city rotations. If you had your druthers, if you were had the national one and were in control of it, what are some other cities that would be on your list maybe to see the national take place in?
I'd like to see it go back and forth coasts, like maybe Las Vegas that has a huge airport that can support all those people, and hotels that can support people. That's my biggest concern with going to national. Atlantic City was a perfect point for that. Some of the places people had to stay were questionable at best. A place like Las Vegas, 90% of the hotels that you could stay at are going to be okay.
Yeah.
And you can kind of do research on it. Atlantic City is just not is big.
Well, even to get in, like we drove, so we didn't necessarily have this problem, obviously, but people who were flying in would have to fly into Philly and then take either a bus or some kind of additional transportation to get to Atlantic City. Atlantic City does have an airport, and I want to make it sound like they're out in the boonies. They do have an airport. Very, very expensive to fly in. Expensive to the point where it's almost not really possible unless you just don't care about, that sort of thing that doesn't affect you. So.
And that is another factor of Atlantic City. Like Chicago, you fly right in. Vegas, you'd fly right in.
Yeah.
You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.
We are back.
I'd even say Nashville would be a great spot for. It just has to have those factors where people can get a hotel room without you paying their mortgage per night to stay there. That some of the cities aren't. They seem like they'd be a great idea, but they don't have the hotel space to accommodate it.
Yeah, I mean, even we mentioned Philadelphia and the way to get to Atlantic City, and I know there's factors why certain cities don't get nationals or not on the list. Hotels, the convention center size, but even you think Philadelphia, right? Huge sports town. I don't know all the convention center. I know people from Philly. A lot of people, they've never said, why isn't it here? So I'm sure there's a reason, maybe just space-wise, hotel-wise. You mentioned, like, even, in fairness to the other coast, right? We're sort of Chicago's sort of in the middle, kind of appeases both coasts, same distance either way. I'd like to see it, for those people on the West Coast, Seattle. They've done it. They used to do it in Anaheim, maybe bring it back to an Anaheim, Southern California. Dallas is sort of like the epicenter of the hobby. There's a lot of hobby business there, from card companies to auction houses. I know the Dallas Card Show is a big show in its own right, but even maybe a potential national there or another Texas city, right? Texas is more than Dallas, right? Maybe people in Dallas won't agree with me, but there's other venues. Florida, you got Orlando and other, Miami. I don't know, again, I don't know all the convention centers like the back of my hand or any of that, those kind of logistics. But just off the top of my head, those are just kind of cities. I think I mentioned Seattle. I'm from New York City. I know that's sort of can be a logistics nightmare. I understand that. I think they looked at the Atlantic City venue as sort of that tri-state point anyway. The Nationals under new leadership, so maybe we will get some new blood in terms of cities to host. As someone who's been to the National, some of the things you love and some of the things you'd like to see either done better or added to.
Love like just meeting people in the hobby, especially people you meet through Twitter. Just actually seeing a face to go along with a Twitter handle. Sometimes that's cool. And it brings you to a new place. Like, Atlantic City wasn't the best, but I did the boardwalk. I did some, the tourist things. That's part of the National to me, even though I don't put that as the biggest factor. Like, I'm there for the show. It's good to see like the demographics. I like walking around and just people watching and asking the dealers what people are buying and, just having conversations. That's my favorite part about it. It's just being in the hobby. My least favorite things, I don't know. I mean, Atlantic City was just not safe. But that really doesn't have to do with the show. I guess the autograph area could be a little bit more organized. But it should be communicated better how they run that. But that's the only really issue I had. I did Ricky Henderson and Mariano Rivera, and it was tough to understand when you were supposed to go up and people were blocking. But I guess it's run differently at the different shows.
And it's run by, in defense of the net, it's run by TriStar, so it's a separate group, but it is part of the National, so it's a fair answer to the question.
I mean, if that's the only knock I have and it's not the promoter, right? They're doing a good other than that, I don't know. Like, they do a good job. I can't complain. You're spending the money and they make sure that you're getting value money. That's what I feel anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree for the most part. I mean, my only, we talked a little bit about Chicago. It's you kind of elbow to elbow. It's a little tight. Maybe something to do there, space some stuff out. You only have so much square footage, so that's easy for us to play Armchair National and ask them to do that. It's not as simple as maybe we make it out to do. But yeah, I mean, that's why the National is a great event, right, Nick? Is because there's not too many. There's more positives than negatives, and that's why we enjoy going. That's why so many other people in the hobby enjoy. I mean, it's kind of like anyone in the hobby's there, from content creation, the manufacturers, the other avenues of the hobby, and new apps, advertised there, and it's a good networking event as well. So the Nationals, I call it the Super Bowl of the hobby. I've heard other people call it the hobby family reunion. You kind of touched on that with meeting people again or for the first time that you might know in an online form, and now you put the face to the name, as you say. But I appreciate you making some time. It's cool to do these in person. I rather do them in person than StreamYard. In closing, give out where people can find you on social media. Give out any information with the store here for whether someone's coming to Central New York or already here to know that you're here and get them to the store. Take your time and give out anything you want to share there.
Okay. They can find me on Twitter, AAN Collect, Instagram, AAN Collect, Facebook, AAN Collect, and YouTube, same thing, AAN Collect. I'm located in New Hartford, New York, 40 Kellogg Road in New Hartford, New York, Hannaford Shopping Plaza. I'm towards the left side if you're pulling in, and hopefully I'll have a sign soon, so you'll be easy to find. But we're right next to General Security, and we're open Wednesday through Friday right now, 4 to 8, and Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 4. So you can email me, message me on any of the platforms. I check everything every day, so I'm always willing to answer questions, and we're always buying. So
yeah, and I'm biased because I know Nick. He's a great guy, and I'm sitting here in the store right now, and just selection here, and like he says, he's not even close to done. I mean, to me, that's like if this was if I was opening a store, I would think I was done with this much inventory, but that goes to show you, where you're going and the selection you have. I mean, you got something for everybody here. So if you're traveling to Central New York or you're already here, definitely check out Nick's shop. Something for everyone. He's doing a great job, and he's going to get even better. So thanks, Nick, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Right, that was always fun to do an on-site interview, right? And thanks to Nick for allowing me to do that and staying a little bit later and working with me with some SGC bulk subs and helping the store out, helping me out. And again, one hand washes the other. Always nice to collaborate in any form or fashion in the hobby. And get out there if you're in the Central New York area, New Hartford, New York. Get out to AAN Collect. He has quite the inventory, and if you heard him say during the interview, he just opened, about a month or 2 months ago, and thinking about expanding to the open space next door as well. So doing a great job, and look forward to continuing our friendship and working together too at the shows, SGC, and all that good stuff. So check Nick out if you get in the area or at the Syracuse shows where we both usually set up. So one thing before I get into a couple outros and call it a show, again, if you do want to see the movie 80 for Brady, I do have some digital passes available. Reach out, contact me through any of our social medias, email, and I'll get you some of those, and you can see that movie. So
check out our website at www.sportscardnationpodcast.com for the new release schedule, our blog, all show episodes, and so much more.
That's a wrap on another edition of the Sports Card Nation podcast. Thank you to all the awesome listeners out there. Without you, there is no us. Thank you to all our great guests who drive this show, and also our wonderful sponsors who help us produce the great hobby content every week. Remember, another Hobby Quick Hits episode drops every Monday, and Sports Card Nation returns again next Friday. If you like the shows, we appreciate those positive reviews. Be well, and always remember, the hobby is the people.